In Kenya, our identity is tribal. So we have always hoped that tribal politics will end with our senior citizens, our parents, grandparents, etc. But from this election, we have seen that the tribal politics have already been diffused into the youths, that even the youths who are voting, they voted along tribal lines.
You can feel some discussion from few members, then you feel like you may have made a wrong decision when you are coming with the ideas, but at the end of the day, we did a successful thing. And I'm very happy and promise to vote now henceforth.
In politics, numbers is believed to be the major factor. So today, I'm with,
Louis Mongari.
God Mulwa.
and we are just from a general election, and we want to talk about youth and politics. I'll be your host, Safiden. And if you're new here, please, on account of 1, 2, 3, thank you for subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Let's go! Ninth of August. How was the turnout?
But thank you. The turnout of the youths was lower. Generally, if you look at IBC, they said the turnout was lower regardless of age, but sasa the turnout for the youths was so low. Yes, they registered as voters. They came out in large numbers. But sadly, when it came out to the time of voting, the turnout was low. So I witnessed a low turnout from where I was voting from.
Okay. Ganda. So most of the youths registered as voters. Why did they not come up on the last day to vote?
Most of the youths, we find that they had their own beliefs. They believe that these people, irrespective of their ideas, irrespective of their more information on what they are coming to do on the ground, they are not going to fulfill as part of the youth. So some of them were willing to register, but during the day of voting, some of them were not much convinced to go and vote and taking it as a counting number in their total turnout or their final outcome or the development that will come on their side, because they felt that irrespective of their turning or voting, still the leaders who came up were not of their choices.
Lewis, do you think that government contributed to low turnout?
Before that, number one, I think to add on what Agada said, number one, youths didn't turn out because they didn't believe that anyone who was voted in could change the situation. They don't believe in the electoral process. And also what I can add that added up to them not turning out to vote, voting literacy. Youths have not been educated well, and the literacy in voting among youths is so low. It's only senior citizens who know that the leaders you vote can either help you positively or negatively. Coming to your question on whether the government had a role to play, I think number one, the government on the part of the IBC, because it's part of the government, since commissions are the fourth arm of government, they had a role to play in enlightening voters, especially the youths, because majorly it was their first time coming out to vote. Let me speak for myself. It was my first time voting. So they should have done a voting exercise where they enlighten the youths, they give them civic education, tell them the importance of voting in each and every elective position. For instance, they tell you if you vote for an MCA, this is what the MCA will do, MP, women rep, up to the president. So that was not done, and it really was a shortcoming on the IBC's part. Another thing is on the general using of youths. Youths are seen not as instruments of change, but they are seen as resources for politicians to be used, for instance, in violence or in chanting. So yeah, that's how the youths didn't turn out to vote. That's among the reasons.
Yes. So God, do you have anything to add basing on his do you agree with him or?
Yes, I agree with him, because on his major point, he was talking about the youths being educated on why they should vote. Again, when you look at the young people and the youths, most of them are now, after they are done with their schooling, or maybe they have gone to school and they are free now, they end up looking for their own sustainable ways in life. So that again contributes in a certain way whereby they believe now, irrespective of us going to vote for our leaders, at the end of it, we are going to remain unemployed, we are going to remain unhelped. You know, many are going to suffer. Some of them are now going to become drug addicts and living their own lifestyle because they know how to look for what they want for their lifestyle. So again, that empowerment to the youth was very low, that led to low turnout during the voting. And again, when it comes to the education on them, you find out that a few youths are enlightened on how the politician will directly influence their life when it comes to economy, when it comes to developments, to their life. But when you checked on them, most of them were like, at the end of the day, it will be the basis of that family. Like if a politician comes out and becomes, let's say, the leader, it will be for the benefit of his or our own family, the generation and the future. So they ended up saying maybe if a leader was a young youth is where many of them were eagerly to support the youth. But when it comes where the leaders were, let's say, people of 50 years and above, they were not willing to support there.
What should we do next as a nation to avoid such things?
Number one, we should, politics all over the world. It's a game of identity. What do people identify with? For instance, in mature democracies, you get that they identify their politics with their respective political parties. Britain has their Social Party. America has their Republican and Democratic Party. So it is a game of identity. Now, sadly, in Kenya, our identity is tribal. So we have always hoped that tribal politics will end with our senior citizens, our parents, grandparents, etc. But from this election, we have seen that the tribal politics have already been diffused into the youths, that even the youths who are voting, they voted along tribal lines for those who turned out to vote. Now, what can be done? Let's change the identity of our politics. Let's move from tribal politics and go to ideological politics. You're going to vote in someone because you believe in the ideology. Now, if a person wins or a person loses, it is not your tribe that has lost, but it is the idea that has lost, and it will help. It will help us in achieving a democracy that is matured up, that has a large amount of literacy, and also one thing also we should congratulate the young people in Kenya. It's because we have witnessed no violence, or if it was just simple demonstrations. Now that's a plus on the youths, that they have noticed they are growing and violence has no place in our democracy. So number one, we congratulate them, and two, what we can do, educate these youths, empower them. When you empower them, I am a Pan-Africanist and I follow Thomas Sankara the late, and he says, a soldier without ideological rooting is a potential criminal. Now that's why you're seeing youths being involved in violence. When they have ideological rooting and training, then violence will end, because there will be people who have logic and people who have intellect. So that's what should happen. It will be a game changer for the youths in Kenya.
You have anything to add on?
To add on his point, I think again on youth, what we should do as a country, as a government, to the youth, one thing is that let's teach the youth what is their role in this government and how are they going to work in such a way that their work efforts is contributing to the government, until they feel that in this government they are actually part of the government. People are in tribal basis where they believe that now because certain tribe is the leading, then it will be for the youths of that tribe. No, let's not be that way. Let's be like, now the youths have done this. They have gone for the idea, as he has said. They have followed the idea. This has come out. Let's now come back to this youth. Many of them are educated. Many of them are jobless because of they followed the tribal best, not following the ideology best. But now if they have made the decision and followed the ideology best, let them now be among the centered. People are coming, they center up their economic, their ideas, their nini. Let's now again, the government should measure again and center the youth, so that at least this time when the youth are coming, because they are the next generation, without the youth, no future. So they should now again center the youth, so that the youth can air their own issues. They can support each other to build another stronger nation of the same political stability.
You think youth made the right choice?
That's a tough one, but I think some of the youths made the right choice and some made the wrong one. This is because I come from the school of thought where voting should be a skill that is taught rather than a right. In the sense that young people, since they don't know anything about politics. Now, if you ask some people what is the role of a senator and you voted for a senator, they won't tell you what the role of a senator is. So voting should be a skill that is taught, and even the civic awareness that is it's done so late. So the amount of knowledge they have going into a general election cannot help them make a sane and reasonable decision. So number one, some of them made the right choice in voting their leaders who they felt will help alleviate the economic status, will help them fight poverty, ensure there's development, etc. But then we have some part of the youths that, if you listen to their political rhetoric, they were saying, huyu ni mwizi wetu, ama huyu ni wetu. If they don't have an agenda to sell to the voters, but still they were voted overwhelmingly. Some were not even qualified, but still they were voted in. Now, this means that the youths didn't know the power they have in that vote, because it is one man, one vote, one shilling. Now you are voting in leaders because they come from your tribal inclination, or they come from rather the political dynastic inclination. So you're having people, you're voting them not because of the agenda. So that was a wrong move, and it will hurt us. To those youths who believe that no, your vote doesn't count, numbers do count. And if you look at the governments we've elected over the years, some governments have plummeted the economy. It has nosedived. We are where we are because of the governments you elected. So your vote counts, and the leadership you're going to bring in will either help us or destroy us.
Okay, God. So some of the youth say that their vote doesn't count. According to you, do you subscribe to that thing, or?
First of all, let me congratulate those who turned out as youth and fought, because they felt like their vote will count to the matter. First thing is that the youth should know that the vote counts. Remember, we are going to use the numbers to say the leader is so and so. If they do not turn out in number, and a few who are aligned to the ideas of the politician will turn, at the end of it, their best people who could work for them and who could bring the development to the grassroots will not be voted in. Actually, those who are now coming to meander with the rumors, we will do, are the one who will emerge as the leaders. Therefore, as a youth, they should know that the first thing they should know is that voting counts in the outcome of the election results. So for those who voted, actually, I want to send a congratulations message to them. For those who did not vote, let them not be fooled by the rumors whereby a fellow youth comes and tell them that hiyo kitu will not assist, as the famous quote of these youths around the ground. Like mtu atakwambia like hiyo kitu will not make it. At the end of it, you are the one who is losing as a youth. Because when it comes to the end results, when people are feeling either the consequences of the government or failures of the government or the developments of the government, they will be aligned to their vote or aligned to not voting. Therefore, you find them, most of them are going to complain here, outside. But when you come to the real ground, are they now exercising their vote? Because the youth had the total powers to change the direction of the development. But you find out that they are now cowards, becoming there, talking in mouth. But when it comes to ground, they are not turning in large numbers. Again, as youth, let's come to this scenario whereby a political member, or MCA, comes from the youth group. Let's say 28 years old. That person, as himself, saw the need of developing himself, isn't it? Therefore, we as youth need to understand that what is our development when it comes to that political position, and how does he go coming to help the youth? What is his role? As he had earlier said, what is his role towards the youth? So when they understand that their role is this and this, they will now come out and say, yes, let's vote. So those who did not vote at the end of the day lost it. Maybe they feel like they did a regime, or they were the strong one, but in real sense, they lost it a larger percentage. Therefore, next time when it comes to election, let's understand our role as youth, and let's turn out, let's vote, so that when it comes to the outcome, we either align ourselves to the outcome or disassociate ourselves with the outcome.
Voting or not voting is voting. What's your take?
Number one, those who didn't vote are as good as those who voted in bad leaders. If you didn't vote, you helped the bad leaders come and enjoy the instruments of power. Voting is a political right. If you read the Constitution, Article 38, it is one of the rights enjoyed by a citizen who's attained majority age, that's 18 years. So once a person is 18 years, please, as young people, register as a voter. We are going to Kenya has general elections after every 5 years. And the people who are going to have a say in forming the new government are the people who vote. Of course, our democracy is representative. So youths should always turn out to vote. And those who didn't vote, shame on them. Those who voted, we thank you. And even though your preferred candidate did not win, you had a say and participated in the democratic process, and therefore you have a right, or rather we say locus, to question the government in place because you participated in that process, and therefore it pains you when, for instance, money is stolen. The public coffers are running dry. It pains you because you participated in that election. Therefore, you have a right to say or call out a person, wewe umeiba or you've done etc. Those who didn't vote, they don't have a right to speak. And I'm glad here all of us voted. That's why even we're having this conversation. So those who didn't vote, please shame on them. Those who voted, thank you.
This is your first time to vote, right? Yes. So what was that experience? Was there any challenge? Anything about?
Number one, I am among, I think, the few people who understand the magnitude of voting. And for me, it was such a fulfilling experience. I remember waking up at 4 that day. I was voting in Muslim Primary School, Migori County, Suna East constituency. So I was so happy that indeed it had reached the 9th of August, and I was going to vote in my preferred candidates from the MCA up to the president's position. So, of course, I went to the polling station. I queued for about 2 hours or 3. I was so happy when I was given the 6 stamped ballot papers, because for once in my life, back in high school, I was politically conscious, but I didn't have the right to vote because I was not yet 18. So this time, I was so happy because I was going to have a say on who's going to be elected. I voted well. I was told to tick or put an X, but it should not go beyond the boundaries of the box. So, of course, the preliminaries of the voting, I had acquainted myself with them. But I was so happy when I placed the ballot papers in the ballot boxes. Now I knew my vote counts. And I voted in my preferred candidate. I was so happy. And it is such a nice experience knowing that if your candidate is going to win, among the thousands of votes he had, yours is part of that. Even if your candidate lost, I participated in a democratic process, and therefore I have a say to call out the wrong in the person who won. So as a first time experience, it was such a nice experience, and I will still vote time and again. Even if we have another election, I will vote. A by-election, I will vote until God forbid. Of course, it is one of the many processes we'll go through. I leave the country to join my ancestors, but I will still and will always vote. It is such a good process to engage yourself in.
Okay. Lewis, your experience?
My experience is, first of all, I enjoyed. I got up very early as 7. I was in the queue, Lesos Primary, that is Trans Nzoia County, Kwanza constituency. I was at I can remember my room 6 because I was very anxious actually to vote. It took an hour or so to be on the queue. Finally, I was given the papers, as he has actually narrated. I received the papers. First thing I was eagerly waiting was to see my favorite candidates with their ideologies. I was going through all the photos. Actually, I was so anxious to look at the papers, even filling the texture of the papers, because it was my first time, and I was like, oh, finally, I'm going to make a decision. I went ahead and looked at the papers. I voted after knowing the rules where you are supposed to vote only inside the box and not outside the box. I followed the procedure. Some of my candidates won, a few lost, of which it's always the outcome. Again, being the first time experience, it was like I used to build castles, like, oh, how is voting? You know, you build castles, you be like voting, you queue, after you've queued, you vote and go. But now this time I voted. After there, we were allowed to observe over the window when they are doing the counting, where it was now bringing the issue of transparency. To me, I now came out and realized, oh, really transparency was there. And also at some position, they were given what? An duty to contest. Therefore, I also felt as a youth that even when it comes to the next few years, after let's say 10 years or 5 years, when given opportunity, I can as well stand and win on the position of where there is what? Transparency. Therefore, as a first experience person, I learned a lot. Actually, there are more challenges there. You can stand for long because at the end of the day, there are many people. They take time to vote. That was some of the challenges. Other challenges, maybe at some point you can feel some discussion from few members. Then you feel like you may have made a wrong decision when you are coming with the ideas. But at the end of the day, we did a successful thing. And I'm very happy and promise to vote now henceforth. I'll always vote.
Okay, Lewis, I just want you to tell us what's that one thing that you'll never forget on 9th of August that happened to you, or that you saw or experienced? One thing.
I think that I'll never forget the whole family coming out and their nails were printed. It was a family that's so responsible, that had consciousness politically. I'll never forget that experience. From the parents to the siblings, all of us voted, and that was such a nice experience. And my friends too. I made sure all my friends voted.
Okay. In your end?
One thing that I just learned there was about the counting. What I enjoyed was about the transparency and being allowed to count. We stayed there for long hours waiting for the end results, of which to me it was a nice experience. We expected that it will be, after you've done, you leave it for the IBC member. But being a public member, we were allowed to stand there and wait. We waited for our favorable candidates until the outcome. To me, it was a very, very nice experience, and I hope to enjoy it again when it comes another time.
What message will you love to share out to the people who never voted on 9th of August?
To those who never voted, there were accomplices in the bad leaders who were voted in. So whenever we'll face problems for the leaders who were voted in, they participated directly in ensuring they were voted in by not turning up to vote. My message to generally the youths in voting is that when nations in Africa were gaining independence, Frantz Fanon, he was so key in the second liberations in Africa. He says that he is so certain that African countries will become independent. But one of the problems Africa will face is lack of ideological clarity. As young people, let's have ideological clarity. That for me as Lewis, this is what I stand for. And in going in every election, if I find a leader who's aligned to what I stand for, then that is the person I will vote. Now, this will help us in curing the tribalism disease that we have in Kenya. Our politics should shift from tribal politics and ideological politics. That is my message to the youth.
Okay, Gada.
First of all, I'll first and foremost tell them they should turn out and vote. As earlier, Lewis had told them that voting should not be taken as a right, but as a skill. So let them come out and vote, and let them learn their right as a voter.
Gada, what's your parting shot that you'll love to share with the viewers?
First of all, I want to thank you for inviting us. It was a great moment with you. And we hope the message will go out to the youth. On experience, I was happy, and I encourage other youths to come out. On voting, it's nice. It's one of the ways of exercising your right. So let's turn out as youth. Let's vote. Next time, ensure you come out in large numbers as youth. Let's experience the change where we give out to ideologies and basically on development. Youths musikose kuturn out next time. I'm Gad Mulwa. Thank you.
Okay. You call yourself senior counsel. Okay, share your parting shot.
My parting shot will be from, of course, the Pan-Africanists we have. As young people, have ideological rooting. Remember from Sankara, from Amilcar Cabral, Robert Mugabe, Patrice Lumumba. All of them had one thing in common that can be summarized in any soldier without ideological rooting is a potential criminal. As young people, let's have ideological rooting. Register as voters, participate in democratic processes. Youths are the leaders of tomorrow, but you can never be the leader of tomorrow if you're not around the table that is making the decisions on who's going to be the leader of tomorrow. It starts with registering as a voter. The next step is voting. And the third step is now participating directly in the elections. In the end, words are left, people are villagers.
Okay. So guys, those were few things that we have tackled today, and if you have anything to add on, please let's continue the same conversation at the comment section. I've been your host, Safiden, and remember to share with your friends so that so many people, so many youths of this our lovely nation may get educated. Thank you. Peace.